Hey everybody, it's Rob the Backyard Gardener, and we just had about 3 days of freezing temperatures. So I'm probably a little bit late on harvesting my sweet potatoes. Typically you want to catch them before the last frost or at least the morning after the first frost. And we had a couple of days of frosty temperatures, so I couldn't get out here and do it because it was raining, it was ice cold. Anyway, we're gonna see what we get from this sweet potato harvest. I didn't plant as many sweet potatoes as last year. I planted from the slips that I'll put a link to that video. Anyway, long story short, we're gonna see what we get. I'll bring you in on some of the harvest and then I'll give you a wrap up of what we get in total this time. All right, let me go ahead and flip the camera around and I'll show you the plants I'll be pulling up and the frost damage that we experienced. So this is the greenhouse that I use throughout the year for tomatoes and for sweet potatoes. You can see clearly the sheer number of sweet potato vines that have completely perished. So we're gonna hope that there are some sweet potatoes under the ground out here. I'll tell you, I also planted a couple of vines over here, and I do see at least one sweet potato sticking out of the ground over here, so that's a good sign. So I had a slip here, another slip there, and several more kind of placed throughout this greenhouse, if you will. Anyway, I'm gonna get some gloves on, we're gonna get the camera set up, and we'll see if we have any sweet potatoes worth harvesting. Well, I guess we'll start with this one plant over here since we know there's at least one sweet potato with it. We got a small one here. Slightly bigger one there. And for sake of time, I won't bore you guys with all of the digging that I do, but let me go ahead and pull out these vines and see if we happen to get much more over here. These were the ones I planted later. I'm more concerned about what's in there. Let me see if I get anything else over here and I'll loop you back in. So I was rooting around over here and it looks like we will have a couple of more small ones. Again, nothing to write home about. Wasn't expecting much over here, but I wanted to bring in for that one just in case we had a little bit bigger ones over here. So just rooting around here back against my house. Looks like we got our first decent sweet potato, along with the smaller one of the harvest. I'll take it, bring it back in if we find more. All right, so we finished the harvest on the little side of the yard, not in the greenhouse yet, but I figured I would go ahead and bring you in for this one because as I pulled this up, I noticed there was one attached. So I felt like let's dump this out and see if there's anything in this pot that I planted just as an afterthought. We got one here, odd shaped. We got one here, one here, one there, another one there, one there. So a bunch of smalls in this pot, which is what I figured. We had rabbits chewing on all the leaves of all of these vines throughout the year, and they never really got a good chance of establishing a good top growth system to support larger sweet potatoes. But in a small pot where we planted one or two slips, I'll take that small harvest any day. So this is what we have so far from a few of the slips that I planted outside of the greenhouse. Again, I'm hoping that we have a decent harvest in here. Then again, my soil levels in here, my nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus levels have always been out of whack. I did a slight amendment at the beginning of the year, so I'm not quite sure how they did, but we had a lot of foliage, as you can see. So my first step is I'm just gonna clear out all these tomato cages and make it a little more manageable in here, and I'll bring you guys back in to see if we can add to our small, but as expected, small harvest so far. So I've cleared out about a third of it. I've got this leg done, still got the back leg, and then this side over here. But I thought it was funny, and I've mentioned in other videos, as I was pulling the vines up, I noticed that they had spilled over outside of the raised bed and were actually already starting to produce potatoes. outside of the bed. And in pulling out, I did see that we had a couple of sweet potatoes hanging out in here. Let me grab these out really quick. Maybe I could do it with the filming going on, but I don't want to damage them too much. And they're really small because these ones were extra sweet potatoes that grew from the result of the vine sending down new roots outside as it had moisture touching it. So still, it's always nice grabbing a small handful of sweet potatoes unexpectedly. And we even have a few more that I saw back over here. And I see a sweet potato peeking out on this side. So hoping for a pretty good harvest over here. Let's just keep adding them in and going from there. We'll have to really kind of comb this area a lot better. But for now, I'm just gonna run through it and see what kind of action we get. Should be a lot of smalls. Again, we didn't amend the soil. I just had some slips that I grew from some older sweet potatoes. I was just curious to see what kind of sweet potato harvest we get off of using older slips. But in the meantime, let me just go ahead and run through here and give you a recap after I've got this leg completed. All right, moving right along. It's getting pretty full. We found some nicer ones. I found one that was pinned up against that down there. Crazy. But looks like we've got a casualty, a tomato here that didn't quite get picked in time. But I'm already starting to see more sweet potatoes coming up. And I believe there's another one right here. So we are starting to get more now. And some of these are decent size. We're not breaking records, like I said, this year with my sweet potato harvest. This was a new bed that I decided to give a shot to. And that one's not too bad of a one right there. Looks like we got the top of a nice one here. So there's some pretty good sized ones for sure. And I know we're gonna have a lot more in here. Here's another one. And here's a few more right here. So we're starting to see some progress here now on size and quantity. I'm gonna continue to move along, continue to fill that up, and I'll bring you back in with another update once we've got this back leg cleared out. So we're rooting right along, and we've got quite the big one back here. And it's been exposed to the frost a little bit, but we'll take that one for sure. Don't know if we'll see any other stuff in here, but that's a couple more nice ones for sure. So continuing on, and I'm slightly worried because I'm starting to see some about 4 inches deeper than I thought I would find them over here, which probably tells me I need to run back through this with a garden fork one time and just double check, because I didn't think anyone would be as deep down as some of them are getting. But that being said, I bring you in because we've got a few more over here. I don't know if there's going to be a third one, but I'm finding them in clusters of 2s and 3s. I saw 2, figured I'd bring you in, and yeah, that's getting full. We've got about 4 feet more to go. And as I was pulling the tops off, I did see that we are breaking some of the tops, and that's another nice one. All right, let's finish this dig. All right, we have harvested the entire raised bed within this greenhouse. And am I confident that I got it all? Probably not. I mean, there's probably some that I missed at a little deeper level or against an edge that I just didn't quite get to. I had to be careful about using the garden fork because of my irrigation system, and I was more afraid of damaging the irrigation system than I was at finding one more mid-sized sweet potato. That being said, we've got quite the bucket here. I'm gonna go take it over to the hose now, rinse them off, let you guys see what these look like rinsed off, and then we'll do a weigh-in after the rinse off. Well, I'm starting to run out of daylight here, so I had to kind of hurry and not get as much filming for you guys as possible, but it was going to be another frost night, and I just couldn't afford to let these guys go to waste. But we do have them rinsed off now. The school of thought here is you shouldn't really rinse your potatoes right after you harvest them, because technically you could damage the skin and then they won't last as long. I do like to get all the Texas clay and mud off them, and I want to get a true weight of what I got here. So this is what we have. Not as big of a harvest as last year, which is fine because we didn't even go through all of my sweet potatoes that I got last year. And I'll have a video posted up here, a link at least, so you guys can check it out to how much of a harvest we had during last year's harvest. But I knew I had to actually plant a little bit less this year because I did not want to waste as many as I ended up wasting throughout the year. I have to cure these now, so I have them in this cooler bag. I'll zip this up and I'll let them sit for about 3 to 5 days in high humidity in a nice warmer room in my house, and that will bring out even more of the sweetness. Now, because we did have a frost, these will be ready to eat pretty much right now, but I do prefer them sitting in a pantry for about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks if you can wait and hold off on eating them. And I do have a video as well on how to cure sweet potatoes, and I'll post that link above here as well. Let me go ahead and get a scale and weigh this bad boy up. All right, so I've got the potatoes in here. I know the bag weighs about 1/2 pound. When it's dry, it's a little bit less, like 0.3. So we'll call it 0.5 pounds. Let me get my scale zeroed out with some slack on the line, and we'll see if we can get a weight on this. Here we go. Looks like it's going to be right around 9.1 pounds. So at 9.1 pounds, even if we call it 0.6 pounds for the bag and some water weight, 8.5 pound harvest, I'll take that. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously it's a lot smaller than last year, but that should be enough potatoes to last me. There's also some of these that really are really tiny, and at the end of the day, all we'll end up doing with these is cutting them and air frying and making some fries out of them. But the rest, there's a lot of bigger ones we can go ahead and cut up into a meal. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this sweet potato harvest. I know I didn't show a lot of the digs, but like I said, we are about 10 minutes away from darkness, and I had to budget my time because I got a late start on this today. Hopefully you still enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And as always, everyone, happy gardening, and thanks for watching.